2, 1.
Hello and welcome. My name is Barry Canty, SVP of Marketing here at ibex, and I'm excited to have you with us for today's webinar, which is titled, How Genesys and ibex are Improving the Customer and Employee Experience Through Cloud Technology. We'll be discussing today's announcement of the new Genesys and ibex partnership and the positive impact it's going to have on CX for brands like yours. Today's conversation is the latest installment of our WaveX series. WaveX is the ibex technology platform, which is designed to improve contact center performance as well as the employee experience. I'd now like to introduce our speakers for today. It's a larger group, so please bear with me. But first up, from the Genesys side, we have Chris Becker, who is the Global VP, Architecture and Industry Innovation. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Excellent. Thanks for having us, and really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, great to have you here. Next up from the Genesys side is Jeff Wise, who is the Global VP, Platform Ecosystems.
Thanks, Barry. Great to be here, and look forward to the conversation.
All right, great. And then finally from Genesys, we have Vince Montiglione, who is Senior Account Executive. How's it going, Vince?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Barry. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Great to have you. And from the ibex side, we have Michael Thigpen up first, who is our SVP of Channel Partnerships. Michael is very much involved in building out this partnership with Genesys. So good to have you here, Michael. How's it going?
Doing well, Barry. Thanks for having me again for another great session.
Great. And then finally, from ibex, Jawad Abid, who is our VP, IT, Data, and Voice. Hey, Jawad.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good to have you. And looking forward to this. Yes. Doing well. So a quick plug for ibex. I'm assuming many of you have not been on an ibex webinar before. We are a tech-driven BPO. We deliver solutions to all of the world's verticals. We operate a network of 31 onshore, nearshore, and offshore contact centers. And really quickly, a few housekeeping items before we dive in. We encourage you to submit questions throughout the webinar. We did receive some questions during registration that we will address, but please feel free to ask any questions you might have. We'll pause and answer a few of those questions during the course of this presentation. But again, please submit any new questions you might have. And a recording of this webinar will be shared with all registrants for you to review or to share with your colleagues. And with that out of the way, gentlemen, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'll direct this first question to Michael and Vince. So to kick us off, I mentioned earlier that we announced the Genesys and ibex partnership today. Can you help current Genesys or ibex prospects or clients understand why this new partnership is important and how it's going to benefit their business?
Yeah, of course, Barry. I think, I know Vince will probably jump right in there. Vince, jump in along the way. But I would just say for me, I'm super excited about it because it's really kind of the innovative and the creativity that I see that we can bring together, as well as, the strong customer relationships that we can, foster. And for me, it's kind of like looking at the challenges that we're going to be faced with our customers, in finding unique solutions, unique ways for us to be able to support those solutions, and then brainstorming for innovative, kind of solutions we can come together. And I think we've already started that right away into the relationship. And I think you'll start to see that foster as we do other announcements. But for me, that is just the key cornerstone of it, outside of the stuff that Jawad and I looked at, as well as from the enterprise level of growing ibex.
Michael, you took the words right out of my mind too. Innovation, right? Innovation recognizes innovation. And so us coming together with ibex it's a phenomenal thing. I think the BPO landscape, as you will, and you guys going above and beyond from an innovation standpoint and selecting us to work with you in that fashion is just an exciting time. And we're really happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
And I got to jump in. Innovations in my title, right? So I got to say something here. We've already started, right? Just the other day, I know that we had our healthcare team on with the ibex team and really starting to plan what that can be. What's really exciting to me is that the partnership we're driving is all about cloud. And that is a market shaper and absolutely critical, I think, and differentiating in particular for this partnership. It's central to everything.
Well said.
Thanks for that, Chris. And I know when you think about the Genesys partnership ecosystem, obviously you partner with other BPOs. But Chris, if you could you help our viewers understand how this partnership is differentiated from some of the other ones you may have?
I think you guys already answered that question, actually. So really, it's the excitement and the partnership we're seeing about wanting to jump in. The reality is that the BPO, your business, that business model is changing. It's not enough to pick up the phones anymore and just be a body shop. ibex in the WaveX platform in the BPO 2.0 mentality has really embraced that and brought that to Genesys. And we're thrilled to see it. And we're right now figuring out, how do we take advantage of that? How do we drive that collaboration forward? That excitement is absolutely huge for what we do together.
Yeah, and I think I might add to that, I mean, what ibex and Genesys, are bringing here as part of this partnership is a platform, not just for innovation, but also for change and transformation. So it's an opportunity to really reimagine the types of traditional services that would have been done in a BPO 1 world, and how they can be realized in a BPO 2 world, where self-service, automation, and AI infuses that platform of innovation and a platform of change.
Thanks for that, Jeff. And some of our listeners here may be hesitant when it comes to the transition from on-prem to cloud. Can you talk a little bit about potential challenges and answers to some of the questions that you typically hear from those brands?
Yeah, maybe I'll jump in with some of the business ones. And Jeff, you want to support from some of the technical side. The first thing I would say is that there's always fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's the first thing that we have to go through. And that's true in any architectural change. It's all the reasons why companies end up on version 8 when version 13 is available. They know it. It's comfortable. They've got business processes built around it. But in that process, they're missing the opportunity to think about what's possible with the re-architecture, what that future brings, because they're just so wed to where they are. And bluntly, people get concerned about the what ifs. And we tend to focus as humans on the negative side of the what ifs than the positive side, which then leads us to kind of the second related thing, which is the number one mistake we see people do when they try and think of a migration to cloud is to replicate what they have today. That I can't emphasize enough. That's the number one inhibitor to getting TCO payback, ROI, however you want to measure it. And it's kind of insidious because it hits you in two ways. First, because you want to do things the old way, you actually on a cloud platform have to do a lot of plumbing and a lot of thinking to actually get it to work the old way. That's cost, right? That's complexity. That's maintenance challenges. It's finding a way to force the square peg into the round hole. But the second half of that is even worse, which is by tying themselves to the systems of the past, they're missing on the opportunities of the future. And I'm sure we're going to get into this, and Jeff already hinted at some of it with the AI, the work from anywhere mentality, the handling of the fragmentation. All of that not only has technical implications, but business implications. And by choosing to say, hey, I just want to do what I did before, you're foregoing all of that. And we oftentimes will see ROIs on our business, three-year ROIs between about 10 and 50%. Right, the payback and that ROI is so strongly dependent about the mindset that customer has when they're going into this process. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, no, look, certainly what we see from other customers that are looking and evaluating to move to cloud, it's really aligns with our priorities as a business. When we think about our service and offering that we provide to the market, it's number one, security. Number two is reliability. I mean, this is the front door of so many brands. It has to be reliable. And thirdly, then comes, we'll call it the function of features and the capabilities. That's our mindset. That's our priorities. So what that means is, one, that we take security very seriously, and security, compliance, data residency is front of mind on the customers when they're thinking about moving to the cloud. And with Genesys Cloud and ibex, that there's a global footprint, and we partner with the best in cloud, and that's AWS, who have the most significant footprint globally as well. So we can provide scale globally, but at the same time with compliance and regulation in many countries with all the current local requirements to manage security, compliance, and regulatory requirements. So that's top of mind. And then you get into that global footprint, having the ability to run a global service for the biggest brands, and at the same time ensuring that you can provide quality of service. And in a cloud world, that doesn't mean you want voice to travel from one side of the globe to the other. So that's having the architecture to ensure that voice stays local, to provide a great quality of service and low latency, but at the same time, a global centralized management system. And then we get into the types of capabilities that every customer experience customer would expect. And that's where between ibex and Genesys, we bring the best of class capabilities. So they're the kind of top of mind things that our customers are typically thinking about when they're moving to the cloud.
No, thanks for that, Jeff. That's great. Jawad, question for you. While we did announce this partnership today, we've been engaged with Genesys for some time. Can you let our viewers understand what the response has been like from some of our existing clients as we transition to this cloud-based technology?
Definitely. So some of our clients are really liking the automation piece within this platform, and the way we actually engaged them initially, we gave them a roadmap. So we explained them how the like by like is not the exact conversion. It's more adding sophistication and adding layers of automation on top of it. So we have already started giving them some automation from this cloud engagement. And at the same time, they are seeing the overall improvement in employee experience, which is a great objectives of this whole transition is. The last but not the least, the security side, which you guys also touched, that was also one of the things that they wanted to see. And especially one of the client was a PCI client. So they had this question about how the data is getting masked. Is it done automatically? And how that masking is being done. So, and what are the security measures Genesys has taken? So we gave them that flavor that it is not being done in one layer, it's being done in a redundancy. So there's no chance that you could miss any masking of that data, and it's all encrypted. Even you can change encryption after every 1 month on it. So it's kind of fully secured, meshed up, and addressing all of the customer needs. So they are very excited about it.
Barry, one thing I would just add to what Jawad said there was just around also, I would say, Jawad, we've also been able to kind of add new lines of business opportunities to some clients who didn't have that, right? We've been able to, some clients that were looking to get into the space of having chat and AI, combined together with the, bringing in Genesys into that, bringing in their app foundry, and also having some of the partners that we all had in common. We've been able to provide quick fire solutions back to them that we're able to do in weeks and days and stuff, versus having the long lead times of months to configure and figure out how to do things. So I would always say that right now we're already finding ways to add new, value to our customers.
It's the frontiers of knowledge. You get to a certain point, and all of a sudden you see new frontiers that you never thought were possible. And you go back and you say, no, how do I do that? And it's a beautiful story, because as you get more and more onto this platform, there's kind of an n squared law in terms of the value that can be added as you bring more and more things on board.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. And I'm glad we're talking a little bit about security here. We've had a few questions come in around security. So Michael and Jawad, I'll come to you first, and then we'll go to the Genesys team. What are some of the typical security concerns that you hear, and how do we answer those concerns?
Go ahead,
Sure,
Jawad.
I'll take that. So foremost is that how their data is getting secured when it moves to the cloud. What happens to the existing data, which is already on the enterprise side, and how do we restore that data should we have any questions around it? Because now you're going to manage two platforms for same customer data. And then what are the compliances you have if you're certified, and if there's a third party that certified that brand, and also how the encryptions are being made on that data. And since they're already with us, we had multiple encryptions, we had communication over TLS, we were doing multi-factor authentications. So there was a lot of sophistication layer that we already had it for our customers. So they had all these questions for the cloud, and we added on top of these questions what more we can provide in the cloud, which actually was the one key point for them to move onto the cloud. So we did address the compliance questions, we did address the encryption, we did address the communication side of things, we did address how further you can minimize the time that is required to secure the data and the process, which you used to do through multiple tools on the enterprise earlier on, and now with a single tool, you can do all of that. And with Genesys Cloud, we saw that how all of these modules are working in a micro architecture, that you do not have to open another window to do those things. Rather, it's a single holistic view and managing all of those applications in that unified interface. That solved a lot of those areas where we had to do a third-party integration and then able to install them in our data centers and then able to make sure that they communicate and if there's redundancy in it. So now we don't have to worry about the redundancies because all of this is in the cloud with multi-architecture in it, with multi-tiers in it. So we definitely addressed all of those security concerns from the client side.
And I would just say ditto to all the technical stuff that Jawad said there. And on the other side of the fence, I would say, what I would say is Jawad, one, that layers. That's absolutely what we're here for. When I'm engaging with existing or new prospects, a lot of the conversation is around, how does those third-party tools work together? And how do I know that they're flowing through one ecosystem and not in and out of different third-party apps and such? And so when, the way, Jawad explained it is exactly right, is that, hey, it's all in this cloud environment now. It's all, they're enabled. And then at the same time, having a partner like Genesys that vets and brings the best of class type of partners into their app foundry, that's also how we get security, we have the right type partners that we're mutually working with. And I'll just finally say on the other end, Vince and I also, from a security standpoint, we're running into clients that are asking us, what more can you do for us in security? Just recently, we had a client that came to us and asked us for voice biometrics, right? And so that was a different layer because they had an experience getting onto a bank call. So that's also been another avenue we're able to go down, is look for different partners, different AI services that we can layer on to get that next layer of security.
Chris, Jeff, Vince, you guys want to add anything onto that?
I think probably the only thing I would add, as I mentioned, our number one priority is security. It's what we think, breathe, and sleep on. And the types of things we do is, continual penetration testing, denial of service testing. We do chaos testing. We kind of try and stay ahead of the curve in every facet of the platform. And that just kind of highlights how seriously we take security. And that is not, and that's on a global footprint with best of breed partners like AWS and ibex. So just reinforcing really what we've already said.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing Michael did and say yes, and all the technical stuff. There's a real practical thing, and we touched upon it on a prem basis. Customers like the idea that they have control, and we say, yeah, that's kind of the problem. Because when you're on a legacy platform, right? Like you're on, but as we said before, you're on version 8 versus version 13. And a patch comes out. What are you going to do? Right? The fact is there's a core versus context. The core for our common customers, both Genesys and ibex, is doing their business. They want to be the best hospital. They want to be the best hotel they can be, right? Part of that involves security, right? So it's sitting on that line. They know they have to have it. Is it the primary concern? Or is the facilities management of the hotel the primary concern? For us, it is the primary concern. All the things you heard from the technical guys. And that way, we're thinking about that constantly. And in fact, if you actually look at it, the cloud tends to be more secure for all those reasons than the prem-based stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's a great opening. And I'd now like to transition us to the employee experience, kind of the other half of the title here for this webinar. What we know at ibex, we've known it for years, is that there is a direct correlation between a positive employee experience and a great customer experience, and we differentiate around that. So I'll start with you, Jawad and Michael. Can you help us understand how this Genesys and ibex partnership is going to enhance the employee experience for contact center agents?
Mike, you go first.
Sure. I would say, for me, one thing I would say that I know our CMO says a lot, which is we're an employee first organization, right? And so when Jawad and I were looking and assessing what tools, what partnerships we wanted to have out there every day, that was of utmost importance to us, right? Making sure that any tools we put out there weren't complicated for them, left them being able to get more done than less, allowing them to enjoy their job and enjoy their training, onboarding courses and all that stuff along the way, and knowing that when they're helping the customer along the way, that the tools and the services and the apps and the features and all the infrastructure behind them is doing them a service versus holding them back. And that's one thing that I've enjoyed in the BPO space of seeing is that growth of adding more and more to allow our agents to do more than less. And so what I see in Genesys partnership is that we'll be able to scale faster, that we'll be able to do more speed to execution, speed to delivery, speed to implementation, all those different categories. And so far, we've already been able to do that just with migrating some of our customers, which I know Jawad will express.
Yeah, definitely. Mike, you said it right. So we had a great focus on improving the employee experience, and there are a number of ways we thought about how to improve that piece. One of the ways is that you do the automation in terms of their login experience. Often you see that the agent finding hard to log in and then entering a lot of information on and have to remember copy pasting login password information. We eliminated that through this transformation by just using single sign-on. And now the agent just has to click one or twice and that's it. They're logged in. They don't have to enter anything. They're straight away on the call. So the amount of time they used to spend in 2 to 3 minutes is now less than 30 seconds. And that creates a lot of good experience of that employee, that it does not have to get into a lot of confusions every day, every shift, every month. And if you add it up, it's a huge improvement in our efficiencies in handling it. The other piece that we also focused on giving the same interface for entire interaction journey or a customer journey. having to see the last emails of that customer in the same interface, having to see the chat interactions and a bot interaction before it gets to the agent. And the agent has the ability to maneuver through multiple knowledge articles throughout the interaction, adds a lot of improvement in terms of giving the capabilities in the hands of the agent to make the right decisions. And this adds to their improvement in KPIs, that they are now have the efficient handle time. They're now able to close the issues on time. And not only that, they're getting good feedbacks. And now their scorecards is getting improved. Now their gamification tells them how good they have been performing. So this whole idea, and again, I'll emphasize on a single solution, single interface, a unified 360 view is doing that trick. They don't have to get into application number 2 to see their score, application number 3 to see their evaluation, and application number 4 to see their EHTs. It's all right in front of them. It's like they're running a wallboard in their PCs. They're seeing how long the interaction is going on, how good their pitch is, if they have to pitch something else based on the knowledge article that picked it up automatically, or they're missing any upselling in it. And those kind of things bring that blend together and improves the overall experience. And we've already started that journey.
Yeah, Jawad, I think it's really key. I mean, you talk about it. We always think about what's the customer journey, and the way you put it is so perfect. You're absolutely right. Our agents and our teams have journeys too, right? Especially in a world where labor markets are so tight, right? Especially in key verticals like hospitality and healthcare. You can go on down the list. We all know this to be the case. Making it easier, having empathy for our teams, getting them the right info at the right time in the right context. The reason why our teams take these jobs is because in many cases, they really want to serve people. Nurses want to heal people. People in hospitality want to make people welcome. So the more empathy we can bring in understanding their journey, the better off. And by the way, financially viable and really important for our buyers, our customers. I'll just give you one example. Michael was talking earlier about App Foundry partners. We have an App Foundry partner that really specializes in mental health, right? And the way it works is after you've been on queue and taken enough calls, they give you essentially a 90-second mental health break. That 90-second mental health break improves average handle time, improves customer experience, improves employee experience. Over the long term, we're starting to get the data now, seems to be improving, reducing employee churn and improving retention for a 90-second break, right? That little piece of empathy goes such a long way in terms of making this a reality.
And Chris, I think that's great. I mean, if I went back to very, original comment of like, what from the employee experience part of it, for me, it's kind of after I listened to you kind of go over that, it really was about we're about being transparent, right? I mean, it feels really good to get off a call and not wait to the end of the month to see what scores I got from that customer experience, right? To get that right away and be able to see how I made that customer feel, how I did in that call, be able to take pros and cons and best practices from that and apply it immediately. I think you really do get the next call gets better, right? Because you're already able to see that immediately compared to kind of in previous days when you had to wait for the analytics and the data to get in front of you. And so the employee experience from my standpoint is enabling our agents to have data real time versus and proactive, I guess, versus reactive engagement.
Yeah, I think I might just introduce some other perspectives around employee experience, because at the end of the day, organizations, people are the most valuable resource and most valuable asset. And it's about maximizing that. So what we've seen is a large trend to using these incredible people for higher value conversations and higher value interactions with customers. And it's about maximizing it, but also making it more efficient. And that's around really augmenting our agents and our people to be much more successful and engaged and empowered as well. So when we think about everything we think about at Genesys is about being able to deliver empathetic experiences, because if you can really put yourself in the shoes of the customer, you can provide that connection and that context to provide an even better experience. So we always think about how we can infuse empathy into everything we do. And that's really kind of translates to not just providing a voice or an agent-based service, but also how one brings in self-service, automation, as well as, where anything that is repeatable or lower value, and then being able to provide the natural pathway to elevate that interaction when a high value live person is required. So we kind of always think about where those efficiencies, where those transformation opportunities can come. But when an agent is required, that they are empowered, we augment their ability. And some of the things we think about is, what is the next best action? Surfacing the right knowledge to guide them, to provide that type of experience, to understand the context and the history. And then wrapping, I guess, more holistically, gamification. We provide a natural gamification capability as part of that employee experience to provide motivation and recognition and reward. So employees are such an integral part of the types of experiences we all provide our customers, and it's elevating them to let them shine.
Well, thanks, Jeff. And if I could just stick with you for a moment, as we know, post-COVID, there's been a transition to more hybrid and remote agents. Can you talk a little bit about the specific benefits that that cohort is going to be able to take advantage of?
Oh, look, I think, obviously COVID was something none of us in the world wanted, but there have been some benefits, and that is it has really shown that we can operate large, complex contact centers and customer experience capabilities globally and remotely. Not to say it hasn't been without its challenges. So what it's really done is it's really proven that model works. It also proves that going to the cloud, you can move quickly. We were turning on customers during the pandemic within 24, 48 hours, a full-blown contact center, fully remote in the cloud for a lot of our premise-based customers. So it's speed and ability to execute and time to get to market. That's probably one key thing. The other key thing is it's now about choice. So it's about providing choice in this new world where you can have hybrid models, and giving choice to be able to get the best people and also give them the ability to work with you in a way that works for both parties as well. So that might be remote in the office or hybrid, and really allowing them to work how they want, but also trying to match how they want to work with them. And that comes into things like being able to do shift trading and being able to see on the fly on your mobile device what my schedule is, or if I'm going to be late for a schedule, all mobile enabled on a mobile device, even though I'm fully wired into the contact center. So while I'm living in a mobile world as an agent, I can do all these types of activities, again, to give me control in the way I want to work, which is the best thing on how the company I work for wants to work with me as well.
Great. Thank you. So guys, we've managed to make it halfway through this webinar almost without mentioning the word AI. That streak has come to an end. So now it's time to get into AI. I think just to level set before we address some of the standard questions, both the Genesys and ibex teams talk about how we're both already leveraging AI, just so our readers understand that we have a bit of experience with the technology. And Chris, I'll go to you first. Just talk about what you've already done.
Absolutely. So look, AI has been in our business, in the customer employee experience business for, let's call it roughly speaking, a decade, right? It's been embedded in the back office. The idea that the generative AI, the large language models that are getting all the press right now, those are new, those are valuable, and we'll talk a little bit as we go through them about how we're taking advantage of that. But the reality is, when it comes to next best action, when it comes to predictive routing, when it comes to predictive engagement, other use cases that come to mind like that, AI has been at the center of it. And look, just to be provocative here, if you're still running a classic IVR, you're probably missing it, because there's so much more opportunity that could be done if you get that, to our earlier conversation, if you get that to a much more modern platform, which is what we're enabling here. We'll talk a little bit more, I think, in this process, if I understand where you're going, Barry, right, about the new stuff, because it really is important, and we're trying to harness it for wrap-up notes and other things. And by the way, we're seeing it on a verticalized basis too, right? We talk about the AIs that are centered to the CX platform. There are 1.5 million AIs out there. It's all about capturing the intent, right? How we listen, how we understand and predict what the customer wants. We act on it, we learn from it, and then we go back. That has what delivering a customer experience has been about for a very long time.
Yeah, and Chris, I would say, from looking at it from a partnership perspective, right? And my job has been looking at different tech for years, right? And what can work. And most of the time back in the day, we started out with just adding in, bolting on certain little things that never really always were centric, right? And had some ecosystem to it. And I think now what I'm getting pushed into is looking at what partnerships, what technology melts together, right? And being able to flow that data, flow that customer experience and engagement across. And that's what our clients and the CX and the EX employee experience are looking for. And so for me, that's the way I see AI making a division. It's now just making sure that the AI from the past works with the AI of the future, and that it makes sense. And so that's how I've been looking at things. How can I make sure that I'm building an ecosystem that's going to make sense and work together versus having disparity between them?
Michael, the way I think about it is cloud is awesome at handling fragmentation. We were kind of talking about a little bit when Jeff was talking about the fragmentation of where our agents are, right? Which is why we could stand up a rapid response contact center in 48 hours. But it also, that works on the demand side. It also works on the supply side, right? So if we think about, hey, omnichannel, all that coming in, it's a natural for cloud. If we think about the fragmentation in AI, as you're just leading into, what better architecture would you ever want to have to handle that, right? To bring it back in using the configuration capabilities of Genesys Cloud, using the API suites of Genesys Cloud, using, as you were pointing out, our partner communities, both ibexes and Genesyses with a good amount of overlap, right, to solve those problems. That's the benefit of having that cloud architecture underneath the whole damn thing.
Awesome.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think we can extend that to say that, from an AI point of view, as Chris mentioned, this is not new for us. We've been infusing AI into everything we do for many, many years. And it's more than chatbots and voice bots. It's, we infuse it into routing with our predictive routing. We have predictive engagement. So to be able to anticipate and preempt, visits to customers' websites and bring that as part of our journey orchestration. So it's really, we think about it in every facet of the whole customer journey in the way we orchestrate those experiences. And then we have our own native capabilities, but we also partner with best of breed AI brands as well, be it best of breed from Google, from Microsoft, from AWS, from Nuance. But we also have our own. So there's lots of choice. Or if a company's already gone down the pathway with one of these great world-leading partners, they can choose to continue to use that. So we're technology agnostic, but at the same time, we bring that into the platform and into the engine, so you can use it and take advantage of that as well. And then the types of things that we think about kind of moving forward is about using AI again to power things that are going to empower the employee or empower the customer experience. Summarization using large language models, using beyond the surface knowledge that is much more relevant and contextual and personalized. Next best action, and then even suggested responses that are catered for that particular individual experience. So this is an ongoing journey. Obviously, AI is certainly risen to the top of everyone's conversation topics. It's not a new topic for us, but we're obviously very focused on
it. And I'll go back. We see this in tech all the time. Those of you who can remember the 90s, the question was, what's your web strategy? Then it's, what's your mobile strategy? What's your cloud strategy? And now the question is, what's your AI strategy? I would suggest that maybe throughout, all those questions were the wrong question. The question is really, what's your strategy? How are you using web, mobile, cloud, AI, et cetera, to execute that strategy? These are tools. I mean, to the point that Jeff was making, these are tools that we've been using for some time to do it, right? But if you're asking the question, why are you using AI because it's a buzzword, you've got a solution looking for a question. We've got a lot of questions. AI and web and mobile and cloud, they're endemic as part of the solution. And I would encourage us to think about it that way.
No, thanks, Chris. And Jawad, a question for you, two-parter. You've been integral in helping build our WaveX technology platform, which has always had AI kind of built into it. Wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, and then talk a little bit about how this partnership is going to help our clients and prospects leverage generative AI specifically.
Yes. So definitely, we've been using AI, and our association with AI goes back to 12 to 15 years. We have had customers in our enterprise that were using AI extensively. They've been pairing the customer with the employees, with the efficient modeling and AI data collection through different data sources, clubbing them together, and really coming up with different AI models on it. And we've leveraged the conversational side of things in terms of using generative AI in resolving smart problems through bot. So we were not using just the static intents plugged into the solution and using it for straightforward questions only, but rather more complex scenarios, which eventually also helped improve our employee experience, because employees were only then used for a rather extremely complex scenarios, or in a conflict situation where the answers are not enough for them and they wanted to speak to employees. So a lot of shift from the employee was shifted towards those intelligent conversational bots, and they took a lot of volume out of it, and the known cases were dealt by, and even a new upselling opportunities were also enhanced through it. So when we were evaluating this whole cloud journey, who would be the right partner? So we wanted to see who's open towards using the leading brands as well, not just trying to lock us in as vendor lock-in situations that, if we are on this cloud solution, we can't use the other cloud solution. So you have Genesys cloud and you can't use Amazon because both of them are competitors. So we have seen some of those partners. And one thing that I liked about Genesys and became the key decision maker was that their openness, they do not have that rigid thought process in their innovation strategy. They want to provide you the ample opportunity to customize using their platform, and also allow others to chip in, giving us the control that if my customer wants to use Amazon Lex, sure, we can leverage that. But we can't tell our customers that, no, since Genesys cannot support it, we can't support Amazon Lex, and we may need a different platform for that. So we wanted really to focus on which ones gives us that flavor of picking the solution based on our customer requirement. I would never advocate a customer to change their strategy altogether. Rather, I would want to help them in coming up with a solution that can work better for their customers. So that was our strategy, and this set right in line with that. And that's where we will move forward, that even if someone wants Google Dialogflow, sure, why not? You want Amazon Lex, sure, why not? You want Genesys own AI solution, why not? So it gives me the energy to go and openness to be able to aggressively handle the customer's queries.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So in this last portion, I want to transition to omnichannel, which we've kind of sprinkled throughout this conversation. And Chris and the Genesys team, I'll come to you first on this one. Can you talk about how delivering high quality omnichannel experiences is going to be enhanced by this Genesys and ibex partnership?
Yeah, it's your point. We've been kind of talking about it all along, haven't we? Again, go back to the fragmentation. The cloud is outstanding. It is the best tool I've seen in my career at handling the fragmentation, right? Because it gives that clearinghouse platform and that ability to see what's going on across channels. And Jeff will get into the details, but I would encourage from a business perspective to think about the acceleration of the fragmentation. Okay, first there was voice, then we did voice, and then we did voice and chat, and then we kept going. Now we want to get more proactive, so we start thinking about the outbound capabilities and listening capabilities of who's doing what where. And then where are we listening and where are we chatting? You can't get away in certain parts of the world without having a WeChat capability, right? There are more and more of these channels coming. Good luck doing them yourself, right? That ability to meet the customer where they are. And I'm going to throw one out there that I think is probably going to come next to us, is coaching the customer to get into the channel that is best suited to address their question, right? We've seen signs of that in our business, but I think that's going to be the next thing as we think about managing that customer journey, right? Certain queries lend themselves to voice, certain to text chat, others to other, screen shares, you name it. The ability to move from one to the other seamlessly, that's that cloud platform. That's the integrated platform of doing things like WaveX, where you have those experts to make that happen and make those experiences possible.
Thanks, Chris. Mike, Jawad, any thoughts there around omnichannel and how it's going to be impacted by our partnership?
Yeah, Mike, you go first.
Sure. For me, when I look at it, I think some of the stuff that Chris said was pivotal, right? I was kind of thinking about where are we taking omnichannel? Well, I look at it as the ability to now deep dive into verticals, right? He started out earlier about, healthcare, telco, retail, right? And being able to, we talk about that fragmentation, right? It's being able to get in there, understand, proactively help be thought leaders with our clients and see where we see some of that fragmentation and where we also already know we have use cases of things have won to be able to showcase, hey, we can come and do this within your industry together. And you don't have to go out and figure out who and what tools and stuff. We've come to you with solutions to help you, resolve those fragmentations. So I think the industry level fragmentation that we can get into through the Omni experience that we have between the WaveX tools that our contact center provided ibex, as well as the cloud environment not only from the CX, but the EX side of Genesys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. And guys, that actually brings us to the end of the presentation portion of the webinar, but I do want to leave some time for questions for our viewers. Please feel free to submit questions as we're kind of going through some that have come in. If we can't get to your question on air, we'll send you a written response. So first question, its question actually came in early on during the webinar, and Vince, I'll come to you with this one. I know it's probably one you hear all the time. And the question is, how long does it typically take to transition from on-premises to cloud?
Yeah, so here it's all about speed to value, right? We understand that the cloud environment allows us to move at a rapid pace, and I'm happy to report that ibex has actually done a phenomenal job of ramping up their ability to implement our solution in record-breaking time. So I believe the day is 55 days, if I'm not mistaken, Jawad.
Correct.
ibex was able to beat the current record of 60 days to 55. And we're just overly excited because that level of speed to value, whether it's COVID or any other type of quick business initiative, allows us to have that and do that efficiently. So exciting.
And Jawad, maybe could you talk a little bit about how we were able to break that record with the transition from on-prem to cloud, and provide any advice that you might have for companies out there attempting to do the same thing?
Sure. So ibex has a very strong solutions team, the engineering team, development team, and a lot of architects already in-house that has they have a very vast expertise in development as well. So they all clubbed together, and with the whole team effort, we were able to solve this because it was not just the Genesys cloud being available on the instance. You had to integrate it with a lot of systems internally. You have to come up with a new layer of call flows. The current call flows cannot be migrated over, but you have to recreate them. And it only can be done if you have a very great experienced team with you, with superstars in them. They all did day and night, dedicatedly worked on it. And other aspects were about how we pitched that cloud solution to our clients. So we gave them a roadmap. We did not sell them a cloud solution. We gave them a roadmap cloud solution. We told them, like, you are not only allowing us to do it, to migrate it onto the cloud, but you're also going to add a lot of efficiencies to your customer contact center side, and it adds a lot of efficiencies towards your employees and their ability to use tools. So that all clubbed together with our client, and then client's trust on top of it, that they allowed us to integrate. So one of the examples that this client had their own CRM platform, Salesforce. And we told them, like, with this cloud, you don't have to come up with a whole different access list and everything. We can do it right away if you're available. And that was a surprising thing for them, because they used to engage with us in the past with a month's time, with few weeks, and having a virtual machine ready for the testing. And for us telling them that we are ready on the cloud, that was a bit surprising factor for them. And then they also wanted to get to that cloud solution sooner, because they were pretty keen in adding a lot of value to their customers. So this whole thing clubbed together with the client, allowing us to go faster, our team adding fuel to it. And in the end, we were able to break the record. And I think this goes, Vince will mention that we had this discussion during our conference in Denver. And the kind of sophistication I saw, the kind of statement that Genesys was giving me in that conference was the only thing I heard was bold. So I really ensured that their bold marketing really helped me become bold in front of our customers.
Awesome.
Barry, I just have to add in there that but Jawad is forgetting the secret weapon, which is him, right? I would tell you that some of it, well, the team, but I would say what we did have too was just the preparation up front of making sure we actually understood our customers and their configurations and being able to take that information to Genesys in the beginning to make sure that our project charter and all of our structure and checklists we wanted were in place. And I think that also led to a lot of the fast wins that they've had too.
Awesome. Well, guys, we are at time, so we're going to have to leave it at that. I want to thank Chris, Jeff, and Vince from the Genesys team for joining us for today's webinar. And thank you, our viewers. Hopefully you found this useful. Like I mentioned earlier, we will be sending a recording of this webinar out for you to view again or for you to share with your colleagues. And then also just a reminder, the Genesys and ibex partnership was announced today, so that press release is available. We'll share that as well. And thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you on the next ibex webinar. Have a great day.